Jedi, there goes a huge shatter onto Fresno now. Can the follow-up get them down there? Worked out. Well, Plato certainly not thrown off there by taking out Saguru and Sliver as well. Boise State, look at that shot though onto Tracer there. Both teams are still even at 5. There's the pick onto Saguru. Goblin getting a double, coming through in clutch with a triple for Boise State. That is a huge hold there. Now here comes Boise State trying to even it back up. Oh, look at that double diva bomb.
Only Fresno State does the same thing as we get that Riptire to start.
Whoa!
And a huge double kill. He's going to come out, plus a 2-man shatter onto both tanks for UNLV. They'll both get booped off the edge. Arma's got to hold on to it as he hit a huge rocket barrage.
That's going to be a double onto Wild Wing and QWERTY through the windows here. That barrage there is going to pick up a double, and they're going to burn their Blizzard for nothing there.
Taking fairly low. There's the EMP going to land on to 5. They'll trade off 1 for 1. QWERTY's the next one to be taken out of the mech. He'll get burned down as well.
Going to be using, they're bringing out the Nano Blade combo, but he gets hit with the Sleep Dart. Being able to hit that Sleep Dart onto the Nano Blade itself, who gets taken out by Plato. Ultimate Fresno State has a huge barrage coming through with a double there from Goblin. Not by a flame strike though, but Pelt evens it up by taking out Shishame. Now Bully Hunter and Robin also eliminated. Boise State is still 1 up, now 2 up in this fight. It isn't overtime. They focus down Saguru. That's it, Broncos. Using that primal rage from QWERTY there. And there goes the Diva back. Boise State, you have taken down Goliath. You are the Mountain West champion.
Video to showcase great Boise State plays, and of course there were plenty of amazing UNLV plays in that game and also throughout the rest of the years. And what are we looking for specifically from the Boise State change of having, but first let's get into and look at our event, which will be a 6v6 competitive, best of 5. The map order goes Control, Escort, Hybrid, and then Assault if we go to 5 maps. And honestly, these teams are pretty close, so we expect it to do something like that. And as we get into this, what are we looking for from the major Boise State change, which is Matt Merck on that main tank role, and then Plato back on their DPS role?
Go for it.
You can take that one. No, you're good. I know we're both like I said, bated breaths. Like we're here just wanting to give the information. So I'll take this one first. I mean, the big thing is when you talk about, a change up, especially in the tank line, is just a lot of the synergy and the communication and knowing how to have this ebb and flow when you're looking to engage in type of, scenarios. And also just, again, talking back to the adaptation aspect of it, where you're bringing in, this individual who is really looking to fill the shoes that are necessary to play a significant role for the team, to be that anchor that is necessary to success. And again, that synergy, I'm so looking forward to it. And, a little bit of touch on the discussion for Plato as well, on the DPS role. I've seen Plato along with Goblin on multiple occasions, whether it's at Hugh or previous collegiate championships. Their play style is absolutely stellar. We saw so many even in that highlight reel that was just from those past games, and just really, really overall excited to see what they're going to bring to the table with those subtle adjustments to their roster.
And do you have any thoughts, Brenner Bear, having been and casted some of these matches?
I mean, it's definitely where some of these people are going to have to watch out. Matt Merck on the Wrecking Ball is definitely his go-to pick that he is just near unkillable on, is something we definitely have to worry about. And then, as you mentioned, with Plato and Gob, they have those DPS roles nailed down. They know what their win condition is. They are able to call targets and execute on them perfectly. And at the same time, with these new players, you have to highlight the rest of the team, which is going to be backing them and has to adapt to their new play style, which is something this team has ironed out again and again. I know Doc loves to highlight the sweaty comms, which is where you don't want to get carried away having fun banter. You want to keep it serious calls of, all right, this person's 1 tap, this person's down, we're up 1 in the fight. fight. You know, you don't want always to just be like, hey, sick ult. It's like, this is a serious match. You want to keep it focused. So Dux, when he comes, is definitely something we also want to pay attention to.
And just to hype it up some more, this is our matchup for tonight. We have Boise State taking on UNLV. And just one last thing. What are we expecting UNLV to have lost from Kevin Durant, moment of silence, or otherwise known as Silk Carpet graduating?
I mean, if you want to take that first, we'll swap. It's okay. You took first, I took second. There you go. Now we'll go third. We'll do that jive back and forth.
Sure. Yeah, so Silk Carpet was a huge player for the UNLV team, and after beating him last year before he graduated was a huge win for us, especially after losing to him for so many years in a row. And now with that being broken down, and now they have 3 new players, Boise State is going into this very confident. You and I talked with the players beforehand. They're feeling very confident going into this, especially because they've been playing. They've had a couple matches before this. We had the showcase against New Mexico. We had the game last week, and now going up against UNLV in the second week of the Mountain West. They definitely have to be feeling very good.
I mean, and just from getting that intel and, you know, having that opportunity to speak with them directly, being on site and location there, those are just those things that really do speak volumes. And already taking the recent win over Las Vegas, just managing to completely be able to put yourself on a pedestal and say, all right, we know that we have fought long, we've fought hard, we've taken it. Now at this point, we look to retain it. And that's a different kind of mindset when you're playing the underdog to now retention, because now you're looking at it as, I'm not trying to catch up to the heels in front of me. I'm trying to make sure that nobody's going to come from the behind and grab my heels.
And we're going to go ahead and go to Doc's keys of the game that will help absolutely everybody here, which in Overwatch is to never take a fair fight, which means take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, and tempo, tempo, tempo. Doc's keys to the game are brought to you by Count's Identity Trust Global Network delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, and enables personalized customer service experiences for more than 9,000 leading brands and payment providers. Quick and accurate identity trust decisions deliver safe payment, account creation, and login events while reducing digital fraud, chargebacks, false positives, and manual reviews. If you want to check them out, it's count.com. So what are we expecting from this map here?
Yeah, so this is Busan. It's a map that Boise State has played a ton. It's not Lijiang Tower, which is a welcome change for the Boise State lineup. And of course, when we going into Busan, we expect to probably see a cold casting, maybe even a Brig if they just want to go all-out brawl. And they can definitely speed into UNLV and take that advantage, because we know Boise State has been practicing their sim brawl as well, which isn't amazing on this map, but we can probably also expect a Tracer coming out here.
And as they do convene towards this initial neutral fight to see who can get the early advantage, we do see a little bit more of a positional advantage for Boise State, maneuvering over towards the position, still rotating ever so carefully around the theater to get an early pickup, manages to get rid of the Tracer play, no longer having that harassment, so that'll be an opportunity to draw back and really start capitalizing on that control point.
Yeah, looks like they're going to get the first control point uncontested. Matt Merck with the help of Maxwell winning against the Tracer, and also they have the Sombra going into the Echo.
You can see that Sombra again going to get some nice early hacks on the front position, trying to harass and prevent a lot of that opportunity that can be coming from the shield, whether it's from Hertz or the Accretion Rock as well, to slow down that type of counter action on this lower position, though. 15% still being gained and climbing by Boise State. Chosen in the back, keeping distance and really coordinating where that Discord orb is going. As you can see, Plato cleaning up in the backside, getting a triple kill. Now both supports in the Wrecking Ball eliminated, and that's going to be another fight success here for Boise State.
Yeah, sadly we did see the pulse bomb commit from Maxwell, just barely missing Sezi on that Echo, so you will not have that for the next fight. But Chosen's at the 95% for Transcendence, Plato's at 92, Matt Merck already has his mines, whereas on UNLV, not a single person has their ult with the Brig, and just now getting to 90%. So Boise State is sitting pretty for this fight.
Yeah, keeping that high ground position, looking for an optimal pile drive, again for disruption to keep UNLV in a very uncomfortable position. Even this Tracer play that you can see in the back position, trying to harass, but constantly being dwindled down, focusing, being eliminating Chosen. That makes this challenging. Bagel has to withstand so much here on this Brig, but that's going to be so much harder because, again, there's not a clustered positioning for that Inspire to really fuel a recovery here when UNLV is just going to be able to completely overrun this point as they finalize the last two executions.
Yeah, Boise State committed those two ults to the two supports in the backline, only ended up picking up the Brig, I believe, as Zenyatta was able to survive while the rest of the UNLV team pushed towards the point and won it as well, as you mentioned. So now Boise State's going to have to go for the re-entrance, still going for the theater push. They're going to have to get a pick here too, and with Qwerty, Kel eating Qwerty's ult, that's a great start.
Ooh. Yeah, you're completely eliminating, not getting any value for that one-shot potential, looking to try and force out potentially some of the ultimates as well, either by Chosen or potentially the Rally, and you're actually going to get that from Bagel leading into this ample time to get that armor onto not only the supports, but those rotating close enough in proximity. Maxwell gets a little bit of it to extra coverage for that harassment in the back, and with now Hurts down, also losing Karma, you still can't rely solely on the Brig, and that's a swap back over for Final Fight territory for Boise State.
Yeah, UNLV also committed the duplicate onto the Tracer and was not able to get the value that they needed out of it, just simply stayed alive a little bit longer, but still was not able to secure the point. Now with the 90% encroaching, Boise State is looking good because they have the 3 ults, UNLV's none. They might be able to get the self-destruct off in time if they can even get to the point with 4% remaining.
I mean, again, Minefield's going to go leading into the backside, preventing the supports from pressing in. Great separation in division here onto Karma, completely overwhelming. And Pulse Bomb comes in combination, making it completely synergistic on the supports, eliminating them with a vengeance. Just not able to have any sort of survival onto the main point. And since you've gotten rid of the supports and there's nobody to sustain, that's just going to be Boise State cleaning up the last few. Doesn't matter how quick or many dashes you have, that's going to be a first round win. And you can hear the let's go in the back. I know I did.
Yeah, you know these players are so happy to be coming against their longtime rivals, no less, and take the first map with a pretty dominating victory. I mean, UNLV only got 36% the whole time, and you know Boise State went into every fight with the plan, as you mentioned, going straight on that support line. Matt Herc and Maxwell on that Tracer were just going straight in, taking down the Brig first, so Zen was unprotected and they could take him down easily. So Boise State having a plan going into this and making sure to execute it flawlessly.
Well, and not even just a plan. It's really seeing how Matt Merck is synergizing with the team. You are getting a well-coordinated dive through communication. As you mentioned, how Doc continues to stress it, you're talking about clear strategic comms, able to get advantages out early and completely shut down UNLV from having even a chance of engagement.
Yeah, so if we take a quick look at the roster, you can see UNLV is going for more of the traditional mecha-based Busan team comp, whereas Boise State is sticking with Matt Merck on this Wrecking Ball, who's just been such an impossible force to match with how much chaos he can cause in that backline. Just the poke on the rotations, having to keep that Rhine shield up is going to make him move that much slower.
I'm really fixated on this DPS lineup for UNLV to see what they can do with this Mei to try and slow that tempo, potentially find some opportunities to isolate a few members and bring them down. But it's basically like a swarm of bees right now from Boise State, taking a quick advantage onto UNLV, managing to get a couple of quick picks. Chosen is down, though. This could be problematic. But if Boise State sticks close together, and Plato just comes out of nowhere as per usual and gets a quick double.
Yeah, he got such an early pick onto Allura of that Lucio, so taking out the head support that pretty much dictates when the fight's happening. Lucio with that speed boot, who is such a key player, especially for the UNLV team. And now Sezzy swapping over to the Symmetra, no less, is very interesting, going up against a double full just spray and pray of the Soldier and the Tracer. So she's going to have to stick by her tank hard if she wants to get that DPS.
Ooh.
Or she's just going to get taken out first.
Another coordinated play into the minefield. Again, I focused and commented on the DPS lineup for UN, just wanting to see what they're going to do with it. They opt to change up their composition, but the second that they come into this after sacrificing the minor ultimate economy that they gained from the first engagement only sets them further back, and now they're continually swapping.
Yeah, so now they're going to have to try to run into both DPS ults for Boise State, and Karma's the only one with the amplification matrix, but that won't be game-changing enough because Boise State can simply line of sight it most of the time. And already Matt Merck is causing great chaos, but will get eaten. Great job by Hertz eating Maxwell's ult.
That's one of the big things to focus on right now. That's been twice now over the course of these 2 rounds. The consecutive play from Hertz is quite substantial, but unfortunately, even though they get those couple of wins, they're not out of these engagements just yet. They're still trying to play recovery. Bagel now gets the takedown onto the Cassidy play. Hertz unable to really do much value in that close combat, especially when the Fan the Hammer is down. Plato up top uncontested. Nobody can even get there to block or prevent that sightline, and now you've got 10% to go. This is final fight territory, and I'm not even sure that they're going to be able to touch.
Yeah, they still have the armor from the rally coming out from Bagel, so Boise State can get aggressive with it. And the Shatter right out the gate, it's not even going to land on anybody, and UNLV can't even touch the point or get a percentage. A dominating first mode for Boise State.
Yeah, control map heavily in favor here. We're going to get the highlight here on Matt Merckx. We were talking about it. How are they going to acclimate, joining the team, getting already a play of the game coming out here for this rivalry between the two. And it's such a great level of competitive play and how well it is synergizing with this Tracer and the dive. I can't compliment that enough. And the biggest question is now, how is it that UNLV is going to be able to respond and react to this, moving out of the control map style, transitioning into this escort map?
Yeah, I think they started off that mecha base actually quite well. They had the Doomfist who could actually help deal with Matt Merck in the backline, but they swapped off of it so quickly over to the Cassidy that I don't think he got his value up against a Tracer and a Soldier. He was doing his best to go on Tracer, but Matt Merck was always in his face, knocking up the entire team, but then Hertz was doing their work, eating those ults, so I definitely think UNLV can bring it back for Escort. So we take a look at this highlight of how well these two players were able to synergize and just go into those support lines again and again.
Also, just the awareness of positioning coming out from Boise State, acknowledging how to go into this, utilizing the high ground when necessary, the catwalk over specifically in the downtown realm before even getting into the mecha base, which will probably have a couple of sight lines of that as well. Just really, really a heads-up gameplay and adaptation. And as you even commented earlier, towards the end of this fight, the focus fire onto the support line was vital for their success.
Yeah, UNLV always went for that back theater route, so Boise State knew where to expect them to come. Matt Merck had the perfect toss himself up, throw the mines down, and him and Maxwell will just engage, which was absolutely fantastic. And then going over to Mecha Base, as you mentioned, we have a low cut of it. Maxwell's just in the backline poking the whole time. Even with the Immortality Field, you can still burn him down until that final chunk, prioritizing the Baptiste as Plato's just cleaning shop, gets the triple here, no less. So it's really these two DPS players just outmatching the UNLV 2 DPS, whereas QWERTY and Sevi just haven't had to match the veracity of the Boise State team so far.
It's just this sense of discombobulation where you're seeing Maxwell completely in the back, always drawing attention away. They're making them focus elsewhere. How are we going to be able to evade this incoming damage and try to crowd control this so that we're not in an unfavorable trade? All the while, Plato playing that opposite crossfire, getting that free firing. Helix Rockets just raining death and destruction on anybody that they can find in the open space. And just that well-rounded, coordinated play from multiple points has been really, really powerful for Boise, as now we're going to be entering into this next map, which is going to be Eichenwald. There are different variations as we go into the initial choke point, onto this first point, then transitioning into the streets phase, and then more of that verticality denial as we enter into that final castle segment.
Yeah, and I absolutely love seeing anything but Kings Row for this hybrid, so Eichenwald is such a welcome change, but we will never see the third point castle because no one has ever made it that far in Mountain West so far. When we played this map last week even, we didn't get past the first point. So I would hope and love to see the castle if it even exists. And as you mentioned, there's so many ways to try to push through this choke. We've seen even a Farm Mercy Diva try to fly all the way over and around just to prevent this archway, because it can be such a strong hold. Whereas some teams hold a bit further back, some hold right in that archway and just power right into you. And with how strong Boise State has been able to try to change up UNLV's target priority, I would hope to see UNLV maybe even go a pseudo dive so they can get in the backline and split up Boise State's target prioritization.
As we do open up, we will see if that composition holds true for more of that aggressive dive opportunity to the back line, as we do see more of that double shield composition here from Boise State, attempting to just fortify themselves and be the castle walls here versus later in the stages. Discord Orb comes out very rapidly, though, by Karma, attempting to try and dwindle the value from the shielding and the health. That's going to come in from Matmers. Up top, we do still have Maxwell attempting to try and get some decent Storm Arrows into the choke points, but they are well aware that there is some flanking positioning around the outskirts.
Yeah, first blood going over to Boise State, though, is a good sign to swing this fight in their favor.
Yeah, they do get a nice rotation here after the initial pick. You do have the Echo eliminated. Now you've got the Wrecking Ball soon to be Hurts. They start to stagger out. A little bit of a too much a divide and conquer here from UNLV, but they finally were able to just draw back, save their resources that they had, and look for another engagement once they've got their group back online.
Yeah, we saw in the middle of that for QWERTY actually going past the point into the far back, not really helping his team as much as he should have, and Sezi falling first is definitely a huge problem. Being Echo without a Pocket Mercy is a dangerous game to play. Yes, the orb from the Zenyatta can help, but losing your main tank like Wrecking Ball that quickly means you might even have to just go for a reset already.
Yeah, that was a huge influx of damage that I don't think Sackler was ready for, especially with the follow-up on the accretion before the shield could really get close enough to gain the maximum value with numbers. So with 2 minutes and 23 seconds still to go, there's ample time for a couple more solid attempts here, going into several ultimates though.
Yeah, I almost want to bet that UNLV is waiting for this Transcendence to come in mid-fight because Boise State has the ult advantage.
Committed the Supercharger underneath, getting some great advantage and damage and blocking the sideline for anyone to eliminate. There's aggressive play by Hurts, wanting to eliminate it but can't do so as the big Omnic Butler comes in from the side angle to lay waste with now 1 minute and 55 seconds to go. And there's a couple of ultimates at least online for UNLV.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be able to match. Both Gratific Flux is going to come out here. Mine's just coming online, and Double Dragons. But Bob, being the 7th and most favorite member of this Overwatch roster, carrying his weight, getting a triple there. Now opening up with the mines, things are looking good for UNLV.
Yep, Sackler wants to drop it quickly to try and put Boise in a very uncomfortable position, but as I say that, two are instantly deleted. The DPS line is gone. The ultimates are vanished. And you've got this amplification matrix up top by Chosen just for, at this point, using the ultimate because they've got it. There has been an overcommittance, I think, with the ultimate economy, so now this is the point where UNLV has basically the real only opportunity.
Yeah, they had both DPS ults. Sadly, the QWERTY, even as throwing it out, will end up falling. So I would hope to actually see maybe even a swap on her end, because she threw that out very recklessly and didn't even get the value off of it, especially going into double barrier. So there is the Hanzo swap, which I think will pay off, especially going up against the Nash, who got first blood in this next fight.
Another stagger here. This is just going to become even more constraint for their push forward. Again, the seconds that continue to dwindle, the more uncomfortable this becomes. You commented about how nobody's really been able to push it to that later portion of this map, and I can see why Boise, at least on this defensive position, has really held strong, and these staggered picks are constantly coming through. The aggression being instantly punished, anyone that steps out of line.
Yeah, now this is where Boise State wants to get aggressive. It's 15 seconds left, and they haven't even gotten a percentage on the point. You can hold that archway, and they don't have an answer for that. Even returning back to the Tracer to try to dive on the point in time, this is where all the ults come out, even the rally, just to get there in time that they will make it at least.
Bob comes in once again, 7 players to 6. It doesn't take much of a mathematician to tell you that the advantage, at least in numbers, is in favor of Boise State. Supercharger boosting the morale and giving a quite hefty advantage here to push into this. The Transcendence comes out from the backside from Karma, but it's far too late. The damage from Maxwell up top with the assistance of Chosen is vastly superior. Even Bagel coming in with a play onto the Tracer to send him packing, as that is a first round completion with no percentage gain.
Yeah, that was such a clean first round for Boise State. UNLV came at it initially very split, but you could tell that they had an idea of what to go for. But as you mentioned, they were just so far apart. It was very chaotic that they couldn't execute on the plan that they wanted. So now as we take a look at the replay of this final fight, you can see how split they are. Still, the Zenyatta's all the way by himself, ends up ulting just to try to help the remaining members of his team, but they didn't have that transcendence to keep the tanks alive even. So that fight was very risky. They used the rally right off the bat just to get to the point with Sezi, who ended up using the duplicate and immediately had to fall back because they used it on the Ashe, so they couldn't keep the consistent pressure of the fight there against the, honestly, just aggression of Boise State, making sure that they didn't get a single percentage. So now with Boise State on the attack, I think UNLV is looking pretty dire.
And as the side swaps, UNLV has quite a mountain to climb ahead of them. With how solid that defensive was from Boise State, I would not be surprised to see quite a snowball tumbling down, an avalanche here on this first initial point to get that first 33%. Again, there is no room or margin for error here for UNLV as these doors open to see if Boise State can make this a quick 2-0 to enter onto match point.
Yeah, UNLV even holding a bit further forward as that Sigma shield's there, so Boise State will be able to burn that down and hopefully get the cooldown, assuming he doesn't pull it back. And already they're kind of showing UNLV how it's done, bringing out a Sombra instead of a Tracer. So going for the hack, that's going to be the target call, and Matt Merckx going immediately in on him.
Oh, Immortality Field came out just in time, though, from Karma. Very great responsiveness defensively from UNLV, as they did have the sticky bombs and the pile drive come through to synergize for that radial damage. With now the reposition, though, Maxwell playing to the outskirts, getting a little overwhelmed. Does have to translocate up top to give assistance. Pile drive comes in for two. Matt gets a cleanup onto them, and now it's just going to be that crashing wave of Boise State. You have forced back everyone from UNLV. Team kill, the bell shall toll. And that is going to be a lightning fast completion here on Eichenwald.
Yeah, such a clean fight by Boise State. They came at it from every angle. And once again, Matt Merck getting another play of the game is well deserved. Just showing how well he's melded with the team being their new tank.
Yes, indeed. And just taking a quick side notion, I loved how the posture changed once those in the audience kind of acknowledged, like, hey, I'm on cam. Let's go. Hi, it's me.
Posture check, go.
Posture check, right? Sit up straight. We're good. We're good. Smiling, grin on the face. They're probably smiling even more right now. But as you can take a look at the players here, they know that they're feeling confident. You even talked about it before going into this round, that they are just prepped and ready to go. They feel confident. They know what they've been going into, especially since a team like UNLV has had a change out of 3 players. That, as we commented, is a significant hurdle to overcome just with an internal versus worrying about the external, which is your opponent like Boise State.
Yeah, and especially coming at it with 3 new members, whereas Boise State has really had to adjust very quickly to Matt Merck, who has had the shortest time to adjust. And you can see how Boise State has just been able to capitalize, especially since he's been getting both plays of the game. I think he's adjusted very well, whereas on the side of UNLV, they have 3 new members, and you can see they have been struggling. So tip from Doc of the sweaty comms would definitely help them in this situation of seeing as they've always been going a pseudo dive, and yet they've always been split up. You always see maybe 1 or 2 members together at most. The tanks are always getting picked off immediately because their supports are too far back, even with a brig, which is very surprising.
And we can take a look again. Here's that crossfire that we mentioned a little bit earlier, but that was from the control map. But you know, honestly, when we do take a look at it, and we have to acknowledge, though, that UNLV does have, you know, a large hurdle to overcome. And actually, there we go. Now we get some sight lines of it. And honestly, you commented on how they're going to adapt and adjust into this. If you find yourself in a position of where it is this much of a challenge, learn within the moment. That's going to be the biggest opportunity right now. You know that you're down 2, you're on a match point. You have to try and understand the weaknesses that it looks that your opponent is exploiting. And even if it's, you know, 3, 4, 5 things, let's try and refine 1, maybe 2, and see if those small micro changes can be an advantage to gain in the long run, especially when you're in, you know, these last dire moments for this best of 5.
Yeah, something along the lines of, you know, Cordy tried to not get your ult eaten, or exact opposite for Boise State, where they got their tracer bomb ult eaten a lot of times. So that's something very small that could easily change the course of a fight. We saw Cordy throw it out very at the tail end, go over to Hanzo, not even last a fight with him, and immediately swap back because that was it. And they needed the absolute just panic get on point, which was definitely a huge issue for them. So kind of having that ability to maybe go away from their picks because they've played the same team comp these 2 maps. They changed it a bit on mecha base, but that was a big struggle for them because they went over to the Reinhardt with the Doomfist and then changed off immediately. So the back and forth, also losing the ult economy a ton of times because of those constant swaps definitely cost them. And same with duplicate on Sezion the Echo. They duplicated onto an Ashe rather than someone like a frontliner that could help keep their team alive because they were losing the Wrecking Ball first almost every fight.
Statistically, it seems to always yield more advantage when it comes to the tank line in a position like that. Granted, there are other alternatives. We sometimes, especially when it comes to maybe a double inspiration, when you've got the double brig on the field, you've got a lot of extra crowd control. But in these kind of cases, I would agree with you that instead of going for that Ashe play, there could have been more opportunity attained by choosing that alternative. But the other thing also to mention on is you touched on it slightly when it came to the ultimate economy, that there was an opportunity, especially when it came to the later portions of Eichenwald, where Boise State actually overcommitted a lot of their ultimate economy. They felt that that was at this point what they could expend and not really found themselves in a position to be punished. And that was that window where you could have had potentially that recovery. You had 4 ultimates going into it, play it a little bit slower. Don't find yourself getting staggered out too much. And if you get that leading pick or that leading opportunity that can start moving you through that archway, which is so challenging to just penetrate through in the first place, you can then now snowball that into value. And even those that are on the high ground start to really have to play a little bit more heads up in that sense to be responsive to the numbers disadvantage, especially with such a long spawn to come back from.
Yeah, so now going into possibly the 3rd and final map, what are you hoping to see UNLV change going into this?
I mean, one of the biggest things is the pacing, like kind of piggybacking off of the ult economy scene that we just recently discussed and I was looking at, is that there's I think a little bit of just subtle disconnect in the timing that I think just needs to be cleaned up. And if they're able to, reel that in, maybe just level out a little bit, take the leader of the team managing to kind of get everyone back in a level playing field and just in the right mindset to know that the comms need to be a little bit cleaner and be able to execute on these types of things. I think that they really can do it because there have been occasions in these fights where Boise State isn't just completely able to, outmatch them from the get-go. There have been occasions that have happened, but once you do see these little bit more of a skirmishes that aren't so already disadvantaged for UNLV, they can start looking for a long-run fight, and they look to get those pickups onto the support lines. It's just they're falling short and just have to be a little bit more reactive versus, responding to, or more proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, so now with Route 66 being my personal favorite map in this lineup, I love seeing it. So with these 2 teams, it's going to be a hard time to just break out of the diner. We saw that from last week's match against Las Vegas, as you mentioned. So now UNLV being the first ones to attack on this point. Going with the Winston Zarya combo is definitely interesting because this is where we can see Dive succeed, but losing Genji first like that, already going down immediately.
Yeah, the double bubble is something I'm really curious to see how it's going to, coordinate, because we talk a lot about synergy, and that's really important between Hertz and Sackler with that Winston Zarya play. Nice couple of early picks here. Boise State playing this forward position as typical to allow them to get a solid reset. They dwindle 30 seconds off the clock. They're going to be able to have a chariot from the Lucio to get back for another regroup and can look to hold just past that Big Earl's gas station.
Yeah, and QWERTY being pushed up so far forward, not having even the Winston to back him up, is going to back off pretty quickly because UNLV is committing 3 members to this cart. They want to get past that turn point and make sure that they can just start fighting at the gas station. And a great anti is going to kick things off onto 4 members of Boise.
Yeah, it has to make them play a little bit more passive, though you're going to have Mattmer still go in regardless of being purple. And Aggress down below, coming in with a hammer of vengeance from that previous engagement and just laying into them in addition to Plato and Chosen. A little bit of a stagger possibility here. Immortality Field comes out to make sure that nobody gets picked up, and Boise now has put them into a position of where they can really keep them at this choke point, and the payload isn't going to be very easily accessible outside through that tunnel.
Yeah, and as we've brought up so many times, the ult economy, it is poor support ults, but UNLV can definitely capitalize on it with this nano. So all eyes are going to hopefully be on Maxwell and the Cold Cassidy to try to stun him out as the nano blade comes out.
Nanoblade looking to try and hack and slash in the back. There's a dash reset onto Play-Doh, so that gives them significant opportunity, but I don't think yielded as much as they would have liked. There was a great digression backwards from Boise State that could not allow them to be exploited. Bagel comes in with a significant Lucio play to get one as the support player. We've seen a lot of this in previous times. I've watched Bagel play on this Ana, but their Lucio doesn't disappoint either, as Boise once again manages to hold with just under 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, and
It gets another melee too onto Karma. What are you doing,
I also
Bagel?
think that was another example of Boise overcommitting with the ults. They threw the Blizzard and only caught out the Zarya, whereas the remaining members still got away. So I think they could have definitely held on to that Blizzard as a great Shatter kicks things off.
Yep, Shatter leading into the Deadeye, well-timed, bypassing the wall. It is just, again, this is the coordination and communication and timing that I would just like to see from UNLV. And Boise State is just, again, getting that upper hand early, and they're throttling often.
Yeah, but now UNLV does have the advantage in the ults, having both the duplicate through grab and the primal rage, but making sure to come out right on top of him with a great wall to try to wall up that Zarya. And eats the grab.
Eat on the grab. That is massive to prevent that clustering Boise State for them to try and take advantage of it with those right clicks from Hertz. Now up top, self-destruct going to come in, trying to see if they can zone out multiple members. Shield comes up swiftly by Hertz to keep that support alive. Beautifully done. Now Boise State has to retreat, attempting to try and use the charge to evade. Does escape with a decent amount of health, but this payload is ever so closely reaching with these 40 seconds to go.
Yeah, it seems UNLV is trying to secure at least the first checkpoint. It seems that they might be able to do so as Matt Merckx tries to lead the charge, jumping down, holding up shield, losing Play-Doh. Says he getting first blood for the spike.
I mean, you do see the support going down, though. That's going to be a challenge. Lot riding on the shoulders of Karma. Oh, but that's a beautiful Bionade. Karma's really stepping up right now from UNLV on this map and giving a lot of agency to bring Boise State down. This has been, on several occasions, a +2 or 3 individual hit by the Bionade as they now manage to gain some time, 2.5 minutes, to transition into this next stage.
Yeah, it seems UNLV just needed a 2-map warm-up, and now they're coming out swinging right now. And the Nanoblade is online, so they are definitely looking to win this next fight if it is played correctly, though. So Boise State is going to have to be aware and play a bit more cautious to try to target prioritize one of those members as the Blade engages.
Yep. Oh, manages to get the Nano. I was curious if it was just going to be missed by some of the architecture. Clean pickup here. Gets both supports as well as the Cassidy play. Clean, coordinated, aggressive. I want to keep seeing it from UNLV.
Yeah, they're definitely bringing it back very strong. Boise State still only having the Blizzard, can at least throw it down uncontested against UNLV, but they're going to have to deal with a grab, most likely a rally, and the primal rage. So a lot of eyes are going to be on Kel to try to eat that grab once again, because that was a huge game changer for him, but he will miss.
Oh, what a grab. Grab going to come out, actually tosses the Blizzard out into this, doesn't drop below, and maintains this bridgeway position, locking down both Echo in the radius. The High Noon comes out up top of Chase with a flashbang. There's no barrier large enough for you to survive through that, Hertz. And there's a nice little assistance there, giving some coverage for Play-Doh, who's taking a little bit of a cowboy nap.
Yeah, even using the Deadeye on a Primal Rage Winston after being frozen was exactly what you needed to do to take down that monkey. And Sezzy, once again, getting the pick onto Play-Doh. He has done that for multiple fights, which has led to a UNLV victory because now they're +1 and going in with the duplicate.
And they opt to go for that tank line. As you mentioned before, the Ashe doesn't get value, but hopefully the D.Va shall, as there is an Amp Matrix to counter it, quickly deleting them from that mech. The chase onto the high ground, the remech comes through, but not swiftly enough to get damage to try and change the trajectory of this fight. 35 seconds, Maxwell gets a pickup, self-destruct as well, causing mayhem on this payload before anyone can recover from it, and now they're in a super uncomfortable position. 25 seconds, the spawn is still so far away, and they're trying to flee to survive. Hertz is about to be demech, and they do get knocked out of it.
Yeah, so now Boise State needs to take space and hold this position. They have Blizzard for the zoning. They have the the sound barrier to keep them alive from the other ults. Hurts is going to swap over to the Wrecking Ball, and the great Shatter!
Shatter hidden behind the wall. You heard the rally charge. That meant green means go. But there is a sound barrier for Bagel in the back to ensure that it doesn't matter what you've got to throttle at us to touch this point. We're still going to sustain, and that is going to be a hold at just under 76 meters into the second stage.
Yeah, the furthest UNLV has ever made it going up against Boise, other than that 36% on the very first map of Busan. So now Boise State's going to have to try to match that, which I definitely think they could. It was so BM to just go right in on the Genji's head. He did it earlier to Salker when he was playing the Winston. And ever since that patch buff came in, dealing the 200 damage in that 1.5 meters, people have been utilizing it, and I think that's perfect evidence.
I mean, the stun on a team is great, but when you've got a one-shot delete option, I mean, I'm going to do that too. I'll be honest. I'll look for a flank on a Reinhardt.
It's the same with the D.Va mech rekill. It's like, why not go for it?
Why not? I'm literally an Orisa one-trick, and I never play anything else. And whenever I play Reinhardt, I almost go into the mentality of I'm playing a Sombra, and I have no idea how my brain crosswired that way. But it's literally just, I go in the back, I try and find somebody, and then I hit smash, and that's literally my game every time. I'm a pro player,
just how
I
you
swear.
You
that's
press Q
what talk
and you're
about
like,
this game.
I beat you. That's all that matters.
Absolutely. Yep. The judgment is here, and I have swung my gavel.
That would be a great skin for Reinhardt, though.
I know. Give him the white poofy hair and just let him judge.
He already has the white poofy hair. Just take off his helmet.
This is true. But I mean, we gotta be authentic. We have to give him the robes and the curls and the
fake powdered wig. There you go.
Yes,
just make it that
absolutely.
much more. And UNLV even going for a far back hold on the top of the gas station, whereas Boise State held them at the train wreck. Very interesting, especially since they're going for the double barrier with a double sniper and a Mercies, very surprisingly, with no aerials other than, I guess, Karma with the leapfrog.
I mean, this is where UNLV just wants to feel confident in their defensive positioning because they think the high ground is going to yield them more than getting potentially a second re-engagement, but it can just really be a hit or miss depending upon the playstyle here. I mean, they're doing very well on this high ground, and it's being challenging for Boise State to get up to really find the advantage, but the problem is that the payload is still moving uncontested. Matt now going to come in. A lightning-fast nano boost, mind you, from Chosen, just letting this Tesla cannon damage electrify, and just completely severing everyone from that top ground. And once again, the team kill, the bell shall toll.
That has to be one of the fastest nano charges ever, right? That was ridiculous. And they capitalized on it with the Winston.
I want the back-end owl stats that show me how fast that was, because I want to know.
just please, I would love to see that. And it led to the first team wipe in this matchup. Hopefully it is not the last, as UNLV is mounting a very strong defense, but the cart got so much free. They barely contested it in that first fight by the gas station.
Grab aggressively up top. There is no means to stop. Primal Rage now comes out into the back line. Matt sees the golden box of victory, stands within it, and attempts to dislodge this support line. Just constantly forcing Karma into an open space where there's free fire galore. Hurts with the supercharger, instantly gonna go down. Hyper focus from Plato. The deflect to escape, and now the blade is online to also synergize with Chosen to put the nail in the coffin.
Max will even with the disrespect duplicate onto the Mercy. Respect Battle Mercy and a great Nano Blade.
Comes through swiftly, slicing and dicing as if this is an infomercial at a late night hour that you watch on repeat, just getting pick after pick. And that's going to be a completion, a 3-0 against their competitor who they've seen in multiple occasions manage to outmatch them. But as of recently, they've stolen the trophy and they've continued to steal our hearts.
Yeah, and this time Kel even steals play of the game from Matt Merck on the Zarya. I kind of wish it was the Ana just so we could see how fast that nano was charged.
We'll get the post-game code and we'll just go in for analysis to bring to the next cast. That's
just
what we're
stare
just
at Chosen and nothing else.
Absolutely.
An overall phenomenal performance by Boise State here tonight. You would almost think that Boise State is the whole new team, even though it's UNLV that's roster is new now. Amazing job by Boise State with gonna pick up the 3-0 win there, which is honestly much more than any of us really expected.
I mean, honestly, I know that you had commented before. They felt really good about it. And, I mean, I'm going to hold true to that. They knew. They just knew. They came in with it. They were lit. They were on fire and ready to lay it all on the line, and they managed to do so. And, you know, to UNLV's credit, this is an opportunity for them to really download how this match has gone, what they can really do to refine themselves and to come back to be a competitor. But right now, in this moment, live in it, be in it, and celebrated it, because all of them that back there on the stage, again, I'm just looking behind you, seeing them all getting ready, and they've just got this relaxed posture of saying, we got this, fam.
Yeah, definitely feeling euphoria after that one. I mean, after coming out of the win of we beat them in the championship last year, now coming into this next of a rematch essentially, and just having a 3-0 victory is such a dominating, especially in the second week. You have to be feeling so good after that. And as you mentioned, UNLV has a lot to learn from this, so they're definitely going to be breaking down this match as much as we are when it comes, especially to Chosen with that nano, which I'm never going to forget.
And the Idaho Army National Guard is a proud supporter of Boise State esports. Top players are presented by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. With more than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for, the Idaho Army National Guard is the best team out there. Reach out on Twitch at iGuardGaming. And just... wow, Boise State did a fantastic job. It really goes to show just how a couple of swaps can impact an entire team, because they played like a whole new Boise State than even from what we've seen when they won the last Mountain West Championship.
Yeah, it's definitely been a huge change with how even aggressive Boise State has been. They've definitely refined their strategy. We saw from the highlight of last year, we had, Gob and played on Kings Row. Now we're doing Eichenwald with Route 66 and Busan, where we've typically seen Lijiang Tower. So it is definitely a huge change for Boise State, and I think it's obviously worked in their favor with coming out of a 3-0 victory, which is just something I want to stress of. This is the previous rivals that have beat us for 3 years in a row. We finally toppled them, and now we 3-0 them after coming out of it of going all 5 maps in the previous year is a huge win for Boise State.
It's a good day to be a Boise State fan right now. But I have to ask, what are the specific players that you want to highlight? Because there are definitely several on Boise State that are more than worth mentioning.
I mean, I'm going to come out the gate because I know we always look to highlight the DPS. Also, we saw some serious play and play of the games from the tank lineup. But I got to give massive shout-outs to the support line here. And I always like to comment, like we talked about for, the Ana play, how fast that's been coming through. The sleep darts that come out, the aggression by Lucio play, Bagel and Chosen just really doing so much work in the back silently while everything else is focused on the front line, just needing to make sure to know that they really have just been such an integral part of this overall composition and what they bring to the table, because I thoroughly enjoy watching both of them, and every now and again I get to see those lovely stellar large bagel sleep darts that just make me cry and wish I'd never played the game.
And while we're on Ana and support play, Karma is worth mentioning on the side of UNLV, because they had at least one 4 Ana nade every fight.
Yes.
Well, obviously well-deserved Matt Merck for player of the game, without question, just leading the charge so often on this wrecking ball with great minds, always cutting off supports, knowing his target with the help of Max on his backline. I'd also really love to highlight Sezi on the side of UNLV. He got first blood for his team multiple times, usually on to Plato with that Echo. So going Echo into a Cole Cassidy and winning that engagement was very good for his end. And, of course, a great Ryan Shadow to just determine the size of the fight with Plato getting that Deadeye onto the Sezi.
And the player of the game is brought to you by Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful, just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success. Matt Merck is the Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game, and it's definitely amazingly well-deserved.
Woo! Chance in the room. I'm just gonna have like my little chant moment right now.
All by myself. Woo!
Woo! Throw it on Twitter. Put them up there. Yeah. Somebody clip and put it up there. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get all the highlights after the games for nothing, as we see the victorious squad walking out of the arena back behind us, hopefully to go celebrate just for all of us here at the Boise State Game Pants Arena.
Yeah, it was definitely a great showing, and you know, like we keep stating, it's a state of euphoria for them of just coming back and dominating this game against, I almost want to say, formal rival now after a showing like that. Of they're sitting pretty in this lineup, and UNLV used to be the other top team in Mountain West. So now who else can step up and fight Boise State? We'll have to wait and see till next week.
If anybody at all, now that our rival wasn't able to pull it out yet. It's definitely a good day to be a Boise State fan. And with that, we're going to close out the match with the Idaho Army National Guard top 5 plays of the game.
They have the 3 ults, UNLV's none. They might be able to get the self-destruct off in time if they can even get to the point with 4% remaining.
I mean, again, Minefield's going to go leading into the backside, preventing the supports from pressing in. Great separation in division here onto Karma, completely overwhelming. And Pulse Bomb comes in combination, making it completely synergistic on the supports.
UNLV is waiting for this Transcendence to come in mid-fight because Boise State has the ult advantage.
The Supercharger underneath, getting some great advantage and damage and blocking the sideline for anyone to eliminate. There's aggressive play by Hertz, wanting to eliminate it but can't do so as the big Omnic Butler comes in from the side angle to lay waste with now 1 minute.
But he will miss.
Oh, what a grab. Grab gonna come out, actually tosses the Blizzard out into this, doesn't drop below, and maintains this bridgeway position, locking down both Echo in the radius. The High Noon comes out up top of Chase with a flashbang. There's no barrier large enough for you to survive through that, Hurts.
Definitely looking to win this next fight if it is played correctly, though. So Boise State is going to have to be aware and play a bit more cautious to try to target prioritize one of those members as the blade engages.
Yep. Oh, manages to get the nano. I was curious if it was just going to be missed by some of the architecture. Clean pickup here. Gets both supports throttling often.
Yeah, but now UNLV does have the advantage in the ults, having both the duplicate grab and the primal rage, but making sure to come out right on top of him with a great wall to try to wall up that Zarya.
Oh,
and eats the grab.
Eat on the grab. That is massive to prevent that clustering.
So take it on yourself and keep your head up straight. Brighter we've been aging faster. I feel so secluded. I really wish that things got better. It's been hard to keep my composure, and I really want it to be over. In a sense, in summer race, we come back swinging. When it all comes crashing down on us, stand your grounds. Faith is something that is really hard to find. So take it on yourself and keep your head up straight. Brighter days will come, so you better be prepared. When it all comes crashing down on us, crashing down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Boise State Game Pants Esports Arena. We are continuing tonight with some more Mountain West Overwatch, but this time it will be UNLV taking on Colorado. So we'll have to wait and see if both these teams can continue their season in Mountain West. UNLV just losing to Boise State, a huge win for Boise State. Hey, so we're coming out of this very happy. I'm your host now, Brenner Bearlad, and join with me to call all of the action is two people this time around, Colby D'Angelo Alloway and Richard Rich Rad. So, coming out of this, right out of the gate from Boise State taking on UNLV, it's UNLV again, but this time taking on Colorado. What are you hoping for them to change taking on a new opponent?
You go first.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I was like ladies first. So okay, I'll take it here for this first part, and then I'll hand it over. Is I honestly just have to say we get to really evaluate what they're going to take from that match and bring into this one, because I've been fortunate enough to actually just recently last month had a chance to cast Colorado State while they were doing their CU Boulder rivalry as well. So I went from one rivalry match to now kind of partially another one in just a different state. So honestly, the biggest thing to really focus on is I almost feel that Colorado had the same kind of pitfalls that we saw from University of Nevada just moments ago, and I think that similarity is actually going to make for a very compelling matchup between the two.
What we're looking for from UNLV is much more aggression that is coordinated. We really want to see them go in and initiate these fights, use their ultimates first, use them to great effect. Because when they did that, they were able to win fights against Boise State and got the furthest that they got on Route 66. When they kept that aggression up and didn't give Boise State a chance to like restart, reset, and do all of the things that they needed to do.
Yeah, so let's recap on the event card as well, as this is the Mountain West Championships. This is a 6v6 in Overwatch. Of course, it's competitive. This is a best of 5 with us kicking things off on Control, then heading over to Hybrid, I believe, because that's what we just did in the previous match, then Escort, then Assault, and if we make it to a map 5, which we have not yet, it will be Control once again. And We will also then kick things off with Doc's keys to the game, and in Overwatch, that's to never take a fair fight. And what does that mean? To take fights in unexpected places when they are unprepared, and of course, tempo, tempo, tempo. And this time, Doc's keys to the game are brought to us by Count. Count Identity Trust Global Network delivers real-time fraud prevention, account protection, and enables personalized customer experiences for more than 9,000 leading brands and payment providers. Quick and accurate identity trust decisions deliver safe payment, account creation, login events, while reducing digital fraud, chargebacks, false positives, and manual reviews. Make sure to check them out at count.com. So we are ready to jump into our matchup of UNLV taking on Colorado State. And with the first map being Control, what are you hoping to see?
Gonna say it again, I said it before, we really need to see if UNLV wants to come back and win this. They need to get more aggressive and do things before Colorado State is ready for them to do them. It's in Doc's keys to the game. Take fights in unexpected places and sometimes at unexpected times. Come at them before they're ready for you.
And as the doors open and both convene towards the center, curious to see how this initial and neutral engagement is going to favor. You can already see a little bit of a selection from what we saw back on Mecha Base with the Doomfist and the Mace to try and utilize and manage this type of tempo of this engagement. Getting a nice early advantage, though, on top of Colorado. They're starting to force them back through this choke point, preventing any sort of engagement. Nice re-engagement onto this side room, preventing that front line from getting stable. Tree goes down. Beep attempting to do what they can, but are locked into the corner, and that's now going to be Sackler dominating on this front line and swinging for days.
And the Doomfist versus Cole Cassidy matchup is always interesting because to see how players like Purdy will decide to kind of play around that Cole Cassidy, because you absolutely have to. You're not going to win the straight out 1v1 with a Cole Cassidy.
The utility in the back here going to give a lot of agency here for that positioning up front, as you do have Colorado attempting to try and re-engage on this position. Again, moving forward, Beef peeking the side. Fire Strike comes through, but there's an amplification matrix going to instantly come out here from UNLV to just completely force them back. Immortality Field comes out, but it's far too late, and that's going to be now, once again, Colorado having to digress away from this and recover what they can.
When you get a shatter that big, the fight is yours, and so that was an amazing job just handing the fight over to the side of UNLV there. What we're going to be looking out for this next fight, however, the big ult is the Gravitic Flux from Tree, or the Blizzard from the May on the side of Colorado State. They have the ultimates to come back.
I would love to see them lead in with this May wall first, just to try and see if they can keep them in this choke position. Maybe find a little bit overextending. They round the upper position. Slagathor very, very low. Nice recovery from the supports as Tree enters in with the Flux, attempting to rise and fall, but that will be an easy pickup. 1-for-1 trade, but it's Colorado losing out in the bigger scheme of things because they've lost the Baptiste. No longer can they rely on this extra healing. It's solely going to have to be through the sound barrier that's gained. Slagathor has also eliminated a 4 versus 6 at the moment, attempting to try and turn this back over to their favor with it being 85%. This is final fight territory. UNLV is managing to come out very strongly here, in Colorado State at this point not really going to have a solid engagement for these last few seconds.
UNLV was being just as aggressive as we could have hoped or asked for. They know their win condition, they're going for it, and they're eliminating the people they need to.
Blizzard now going to come out overhead, zoning anyone that's going to press forward into this. You can even see Finish in the back, attempting to try and just peek the corner to keep it in contention, unable to do so. The shatter comes through and prevents anyone from touching for another round.
UNLV is going to go ahead and win that 100-0, and that's phenomenal job by them. They're being both proactive and reactive in equal amounts, and it is working in their favor.
Now, as we do look towards this next map of Control, I'm really interested to see how they're going to play this high ground. If you can have Colorado State manage to get there first, take the early lead in controlling this position, just as we had really emphasized for UNLV, they could be able to get this early percentage gain and start trying to maintain a position, because that was one thing that I noticed from back when I was watching them in their own rivalry just the month prior. Colorado State, once they actually get a position that they feel solidly to defend, they are much more formidable than on the re-entry.
in addition to positional defense, they also need to use their ultimates to better effect. You can't just press Q and hope it'll work out for you. You have to set it up.
Absolutely, the setup is key, especially when you're going to now try and potentially have this counter to the wrecking ball again, looking to try and dislodge. Nice pickup early, 1-for-1 trade, but again, the finish is going down so early in these engagements, and when you're solely relying on Dio, that is just a horrible time to try and recover, since at this point you really can't fuel anybody unless they're close to you to maintain some area of effect healing. Nice couple of boops though, and getting rid of the support line. If they can just eliminate this Tracer play, or correction, the Diva play on this bottom position, they should be able to switch this back, but UNLV is actually being able to persevere, especially because they've got that focusing beam to eliminate once that 50% health value and lower.
The Rhine knockoff of the high ground was huge, and then you get the immediate pick onto the Baptiste in that fight is effectively yours, regardless of whether or not you lose your Echo in the process.
Now as we do see them looking to try and adjust their composition, more so going to bring out the Roadhog in this by Beef, and curious what kind of value it can bring. Nice early hook. The value is actually already being obtained leading into this, and you've got now the Remake going to come back in, attempting to see what they can do, but there's a heavy discord onto Beef. Has to be cautious of where this damage is going to come from, so they don't have to proc that take a breather much earlier as the Transcendence comes through. Karma sustaining on this position, since they've managed to get this early advantage once again here for UNLV. They're really just looking to try and maintain defensively and look for the long run fight here and pretty much retain a lot of these ultimates.
Colorado State was at a massive disadvantage going from low ground to high ground, but the Roadhog hooks were able to even that and get 2 picks before the fight even began, and UNLV even dropped.
Yeah, and you can see that there is some decent, again, sustainability from Colorado, but it's just once it starts getting a little bit separated, again, you had that high ground position from Dio attempting to give some assistance to their backline. They fell. Now it's at 65% here for UNLV, and they're in prime position to just close this out, but they have to keep tabs on these 5 ultimates that Colorado has.
Colorado needs to, at this point, just press Q and get somebody. It doesn't have to be perfect. 2 is enough.
See if they're going to lead in with the sound barrier. They managed to do so, making sure that everybody has reinforcements to press in. Immortality Field has mitigated the pulse bomb, but there is still presence in the back. Once again, they have this Baptiste's number on speed dial. They are constantly focus firing, and once you eliminate it, that is basically fight over, constantly and repeatedly as we go into this overtime. UNLV is just going to posture forward, trying to zone out the remaining view to not allow them to proc this into the overtime. You do even have the adjustment on Doomfist so that they have that recontention so that they're coming from spawn. Hertz gets a nice clean double as well. This is just heavily UNLV's favor because they really know how to focus fire this support line, and they honestly learned a lot from their previous game with Boise.
And when you get that late in the game and all 6 of them are on the point, at that point Colorado State is just trying to see what they can do with individual members getting burnt down on the point. Not a whole lot really they could have done to change that there after they lost the fight. And the biggest thing that Colorado State has been falling victim to is their Baptiste is the hard focus of UNLV, right? I mean, as he should be, that's the main healer. He has game-changing abilities. But Colorado State is doing a very poor job of protecting and peeling for that Baptiste so they can get him eliminated, at least not first, but maybe like maybe you can try to prolong it like halfway through the fight or even the last person alive.
Well, because you're really in a conundrum when you find yourself in that position as the Baptiste, because if you force out your immortality field for yourself, you lose value on the engagement, so then they'll take advantage of it elsewhere. But if you try and hold out and you don't get enough support and assistance elsewhere, as you mentioned, at this point there's no peel. The Baptiste is down. You lose the immortality field in and of itself, and then that's just fight over. And just this constant synergy that they keep having from Nevada, they've managed to really hone in on this weakness and are exploiting it repeatedly.
Because it takes more than one person on the Baptiste to truly threaten a Baptiste. It takes 2, sometimes 3, depending on the roles and the heroes. And they are doing this to fantastic effect. And Colorado State, you really got to protect your healers.
And honestly, I'm more curious if it's something where they want to change more positional point of entry, or it's more so how they're going to allocate specifically 1 or 2 to assist. I think positionally wise, especially if that we do have confirmation here that we are going into Eichenwald, their positioning as a whole and a unit needs to be a little bit more refined, I feel, to give that assistance. But again, when we do take a look at if they're going to be on the attacking side first, they kind of have to. When you're moving through that choke point and trying to just get into this open space to compete against the defensive side, which they actually are. So Colorado is going to come out on the attack. I'm really keeping an eye on how they're going to get an opportunity of putting UNLV in an uncomfortable position to start working their way to the point, or potentially a couple of early picks, but that's going to be really hard into this double shield.
I'm a little bit worried about the sustain on the side of Colorado State should they choose to stick with Brig Lucio going through this choke. Sometimes Brig Lucio is viable. When you're going through a choke this strong in this setup against Spam, not so much.
It's really going to rely on the utilities, well, that Dio brings, but when you do have them instantly brought down and both supports being absolutely eviscerated on this first entryway, that's just going to spell disaster, because now what's essentially happened is you snowballed, even if it is only a small margin, this ultimate economy from this neutral fight, so now they can continue to pepper this down. Nice backline engagement, almost actually gets the tick. If that tick would have been gained, that would have been a huge boon here for Colorado.
But not quite there, so they don't get the value out of this. And now they're set up again, walking into this spam comp with Brig Lucio healing. And I think the idea is just to rush and hope they can get there fast enough.
Engagement comes through onto the back, still looking to try and maintain it. The fact that they've at least eliminated the Sigma play from Sackler is very significant, especially because the respawn advantage is not in favor of UNLV. 2 ticks, about to gain 3. UNLV is just bamboozled right now. They don't even get close enough to the point to contest, and Colorado comes out swiftly onto this point and really turns this around.
UNLV prizes their positioning over the point, and that's something that you should never do when you're in 3-tick territory. You have to get somewhere on there, and the Sigma was gone, so it's the other tank's job, and then other people start filing in after that once that tank goes down.
And as we can see now, this high ground being quickly maintained by Colorado. They want to ensure that they've got this positional advantage, keeping tabs on where UNLV is going to rotate through. Minefield comes out also to separate. Counter Dragon Strike, though, with a focusing beam for a nice flanking position. You do have a nice pickup there to remove them from this high ground, and the fact that they're at least getting these couple of pickups should allow them to rotate so the payload doesn't continue to get much more progress here, especially now that you've got the duplicate online, you've got the Valkyrie now committed into this. I think that's a little overzealous right now, but I think they would have wanted to take that back.
This point on Eichenwald goes to whoever has the high ground control, and right now that's UNLV. Colorado State will have a difficult time breaking through that choke and into Castle.
And you can see just pummeling damage into that small corridor, and like you said, just these choke points, attempting to try and dwindle the health value. Nice flux to grab 3. I think there's actually a 4th one underneath that castle doorway. So big value, but there's no real follow-up, and the sound barrier from Dio makes this fight go a little bit longer than I think they would have intended here for UNLV. The duplicate giving a double Sigma for potentially a second flux here. Self-destruct as well. Falls shy before the ult is completed, so they don't get the value necessary. Colorado actually taking hold of this so that they can continue to press this payload.
On paper, usually the Brig Lucio would be, they do less well the longer the fight goes on, but actually Colorado State, the longer that went on, the more they were able to get eliminations, and QWERTY's going to go ahead and pick up that Tracer there with the melee kill.
I mean, they really did take that discussion of needing to stick together as a unit and not allow their supports to be picked out, because honestly, the Brig Lucio is going to allow them to do that. As long as they can basically be this immovable object that just continues to slowly walk forward, it's working for them. But if they do get separated, as this happens, Finish goes down first, Slagather can't manage to recover by getting back to the team, it's going to just tear them down.
A Brig that can stay alive is always going to be more useful than a Baptiste that gets picked first or second. So I totally understand their logic there with the Brig swap, because it's something that they personally, as a player, can get more value out of. And speaking of value, Colorado State needs to get some pretty big value out of that Sigma Beef ultimate here to take this castle.
Yeah, Beef has been really good with Flux previously in its history of play. I've watched a couple really successful ones that find value, and curious if it's going to get quite a bit does here. There is that high ground positioning from Allure, though, with the Valkyrie still being held onto. Once the Immortality field has been faded, instantly proccing that Valkyrie. Now, potentially going to look for the res, not yet committed into it because there's still necessary healing that has to come through for the recovery, and now dives in to get that pickup, bringing all 6 back online, and that was actually beautifully played to make sure that they can do so. But as I say that, it's a Wrecking Ball flanking in the back, getting the checkpoint, and UNLV are nowhere near and even recognize that this just happened.
UNLV prizing positioning over the point. They let a whole point just get taken from them there as they were so focused winning the high ground battle that they just completely forgot that there's a cart going for the door there. And now they're put into 3rd point territory, even though they won the point. They won the fight.
I feel like it's the horse with the blinders on when they're walking a chariot. Like, they have so much focus on the fight, which isn't a bad thing, but when you're hyper-focused like that, opportunities like this arise. Colorado has been able to exploit it now on 2 occasions for this map, and they're looking to continue trying to push into this. But again, it is a now narrow, small room where there's a couple of channels of corridors around the outskirts. I don't think it's going to be as easy to get this last one, so Colorado's really going to have to change up their strategy and utilize their ultimate economy to actually make this completion worthwhile with some time in the bank.
UNLV's biggest enemy right now is themselves and their hyper-awareness, their hyper-fixation, excuse me. Usually in Overwatch, if you focus on just one thing, that's not good. UNLV needs to really broaden what they're thinking about.
Top getting a lot of damage into the Shatter, does get 2 for the stun, prevents Dio from getting the sound barrier, but is able to shortly after. Nice pickup as well for eating the pulse bump coming out by Hertz from UNLV. Still keeping consistent and reading the plays. That's been consistent since when they played against Boise State, and it's really allowing them to take advantage of these engagements as they clean this up once more. 1 minute and 40 seconds to go, and now they've got possibly, I would say, 2 more solid engagements here with a 3rd that's a scramble.
Colorado State is really going to have to come up with something beyond just running at the enemy team because UNLV has such an intense respawn advantage. And I mean, honestly, that might do it, the initial pick on Naqordy, but they will be back before this next engage starts.
Yeah, you have to see Colorado press right now. They will get that player back online once they come out of spawn. But the fact that they're actually getting this momentum forward, the rally is there to give the armor necessary to survive through it. Now, it's all on the shoulders of Suff with that Deadeye to potentially zone out the remaining members or pick up some key targets. And at this point, can finally use it. The meters dwindle. Nobody's there. It picks up the Echo play before contention. And that's 60 seconds now on the clock with Colorado State managing to persevere after a couple of really sneaky point takes.
This was the biggest and the sneakiest, where you can just see that member in the background just capping from this Mercy's perspective as they fly around here. UNLV had all 6 members alive at this point, and all 6 of them, with the exception of the Echo and the Mercy, that kind of like went over there at the end, like once the point was close to once it was too late to do anything about it, the Echo and the Mercy realized that, oh, there's somebody capping the point right there. That is all 6 members that just right under their nose, an amazing sneaky play by Colorado State that I'm not sure they expected to work.
No, if Tree ever comes back to talk about this or look at this VOD or review this VOD, Tree, you're like in my heart right now for getting that sneak in the back as the Wrecking Ball. I've seen it with Sombras, but with a Wrecking Ball, I'm just gonna abandon the fight, let them have fun on the bridgeway. I'm just gonna take the key thing that allows us to win, which is the payload.
And you know, to be fair, there wasn't really a lot that the solo Wrecking Ball was gonna do at that fight on the high ground there. They weren't gonna be a ton of help, so might as well see what you can get on the cart, and wow, they sure got a lot.
Now that we do have the Swamp of Signs defensively, Colorado State attempting to get their first point on the board if they can prevent a completion here from UNLV. As the door is open and aggress forward, Karma now comes back with the Zenyatta play for the focus fire on the Discord, and having this Brig giving some great assistance just in case there is any focus fire. Nice flanking position out the gate. Tree has to bail quickly though, as that Discord is going to allow that health value to be instantly removed if left out into the open. honestly, UNLV has been taking this very, very safely. They don't want to overcommit just yet, trying to take stake of this with already Karma at a 60% ult charge. They could lead in with a Transcendence here, and now you're even going to get the pickup with this lovely sticky bombs that comes through from the backline echo play. At this point, they can just stack up this ultimate economy.
And especially now that Qwerty and Karma are going to get a double elimination right there, and that fight is as good as UNLV's.
Yep, dusted and done. Picking up this third and final tick. Basically as lightning fast as we did see on the reverse side. 5 minutes and 30 seconds, almost identical to Colorado with just a couple of seconds added, and looking to carry this and just maintain. And I would really like to see how UNLV is going to stagger out this ultimate economy so that they can utilize it throughout this open positioning, because I think once they get to the castle stage, it will be actually much more easy for them to complete and not get stuck in this open courseway.
I'm really into the aggressive positioning of the UNLV DPS and Karma now getting these huge picks and this value before this fight starts.
Sup, I had a prayer for you with that flashbang, but you aren't going nowhere, friend. As that's going to be another pickup here. These staggered kills are going to be critical for UNLV to move into this pulse bomb online, looking to find the flanking position. Tree goes in with aggressively again. Rally attempting to try and fortify some of Colorado to look for a contention, but the Flux is going to be instantly there to respond to it, drawing them out into the open, focusing beam, cleaning it up. Nice couple of pickups in the back, but even a Pulse Bomb still gets it despite going down, just walks over it. Cowboy boots have some spurs on, and they must have found the trigger. And that will be here UNLV managing to hold on to this and prevent this payload from moving around the corner.
Karma's going to go ahead and take out Dio there, but then immediately get taken out themselves. A valiant effort by the Solos and Yada in the corner. Hertz trying to see what cart push they can get here, and honestly, with both teams with so few members, it's a good idea.
Yeah, he's going to be able to throw that shield out as well to prevent a lot of the minefield from Tree getting any additional value. Just use an open pathway here to continue pushing this forward. Rally now comes out by Azure. This is just layering one ultimate after another, cycling very well. The Deadeye is very key, though, to get rid of the Zenyatta with the Discord Orb, especially Allure following up after the rally dissipates. So 3 minutes and 40 seconds, still a lot of time on the clock, but at least right now, Colorado has managed to stem the bleeding once again.
Hertz ate what they could of the Deadeye, but their Zenyatta was not close enough to help, and so Karma did unfortunately get picked there, and that is what ended up losing them that fight there, was the phenomenally placed Sigma ult by Colorado State. And Colorado State is doing the smart thing and taking advantage of the high ground. Now, they just need to not forget that the cart exists.
Absolutely. They're not going to allow themselves to fall into the same trap that they were able to lay earlier. There's that 3-minute marker still remaining. Discord Orb onto Beef, but again, dropping instantly, just trying to remove themselves from the sightline of Karma. Pulse Bomb comes in, not nearly as successful as it was prior. Payload just about to reach this checkpoint, and you do have to have Colorado maneuver back to try and maintain this doorway, because the further away from they are, they could actually have UNLV look to take it away from them.
Trying to get some cheeky poke damage in there, as both teams are kind of looking for eliminations and not really able to find anything right now.
Yeah, Finish is harassing that Tracer play, which I'm really liking to see, but again, just has to be cautious of the over-aggression, not moving too far forward to be harassed by potentially more than just that Tracer play. As now they stabilize here, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. They have the rally and a couple more to come online. Colorado should be able to work through this next couple of minutes with a decent amount.
Especially with the Brig ultimate, they will be able to use that as long as they're grouped up to at least sustain on the cart for a little longer if it should come to that, as UNLV looks like they're setting up for a castle and then cart push.
Minefield ready. Looking to see if they can find a position. Hesitant. Actually going to go right into this near the doorway. Gets one to the right. Rally comes through. Might be a little late, though, when the damage is already procced. Finally gets some armor onto both Beat and Suppa. Deadeye comes through, attempting to try and get the value with the combination from Beat. Gets the shots necessary onto two, at least eliminating one on the Echo play. And now, we go into this, minute and 30 seconds. Ultimate economy. The real thing you're looking at from Colorado is the pulse bomb and also that sound barrier. Those are going to be key to use to try and hold out for this next engagement.
And if UNLV wants to go ahead and take this, they're going to have to charge and use Echo Ultimate, as well as probably an aggressive Brig Ultimate, because that armor, not only is it useful defensively, but it can also give your push a lot more sustain that they definitely need with that Brig Zenyatta.
The biggest thing is that they're going to be able to pop it early enough. A lot of the time we see that rally is held on towards the later portion of the fight where it doesn't get nearly as much value, but now they can actually do so. A double Brig play here. Commented on this earlier, talking with Bear about how you can sometimes commit this, the Inspire, melee healing, and also just the crowd control to push and shove to completion. This is a double stacked rallied armor benefit coming onto this team to clutch these last few meters. 30 seconds to go, and it manages to bolster them up enough that they reach this checkpoint.
They did exactly what they needed to do. They rotated through the castle together with the Brig ultimate, perfectly placed after we were already up 2, and then when the sustain was necessary. Colorado State, you gotta think they're gonna try to mines the cart within these next couple of fights to see what they can do, and then combo another Gravitic Flux with a Deadeye. So this next corner is looking pretty rough for UNLV.
Keeping an eye on Tree in the back position to see how they're going to engage this, because you do have Sackler in the back also harassing, finding the pile drive into a Discord target. Sound barrier comes out from Dio, but you've already lost 2, and only 2 were affected by the barrier because of the angle around the pillar. Now with 1 minute and 15 seconds, UNLV is in a position to just be able to snowball as they eliminate these few. The minefield comes out to completely prevent anyone from coming close to this. The golden box is there. The Discord is active. The shields are dwindling. The accretion can't come out fast enough, and there's no ability to mitigate it with the kinetic grasp. 55 seconds to go. The spawn advantage for Colorado, but this Deadeye actually gives a little bit of assistance potentially to try and zone them back, and Colorado miraculously recovers.
The Colorado Sigma ult was the big ultimate that we were watching, and it's the ultimate that turned the fight against UNLV as Karma again went down to that, not having their own Transcendence up to go against that Sigma ult.
Now the question is, will UNLV be able to persevere in the dire moments, or will they buckle under the pressure? Deadeye in the back, ready, holding this potential high ground to see if anyone's going to press into it. Again, utilized more so as a zoning ultimate here if they push out to the open, or trying to keep them away from this corner. 10 seconds
UNLV's
now.
big ultimate right now is the Brig rally.
Absolutely. No, the rally is going to be significant for them to try and lead into this, but the seconds continue to dwindle. Are they going to be able to get value? Overtime procs. You now have this push in with not only the rally, but the Transcendence. I feel a little bit of an overlap here that might punish them in the long run. Self-destruct tucked into the back, tumble out, but can't escape. The radius isn't able to survive, and now with that pickup in the back, there's no longer long-range pressure onto the supports amongst the fray. The overtime will be able to, keep going at this point because the Wrecking Ball's going down. Tree eliminated. The completion here gives them at least now an opportunity to try and bring this to a draw.
We were talking about the Brig ult being the big ultimate that we needed to watch out for, and the Deadeye on the approach there, but it actually ended up being that Diva Bomb just taking out the Cole Cassidy in the back there. That was fantastic and unexpected. We get to see that really unfortunate roll, but unable to get out of it, so just kind of resigned to their fate there. Always very sad to watch.
And now, as we do have Colorado on the attack, again, there is an opportunity at least for UNLV to put this into a drawable stasis, but with how Colorado has played before on this, I mean, this is going to be really tough. 60 seconds for how both of these players, or for both of these teams played. They were able to get 5 minutes plus 30 seconds on each of their sides. So I could see Colorado in a world coming out of this and actually getting this completion and pushing this forward.
It feels like Colorado is a completely different team now on Eichenwald than what we were seeing the map previous against UNLV, because previously they weren't able to put up as nearly as much of a fight, certainly not take it to 0-0 in a single minute on the clock for both teams. This game is looking much closer than we might have initially thought at the beginning of the night.
And that it's that evolution and change up from going from control to the hybrid and just being able to take away from that, singular point of contention. It's always an interesting beast when you see two teams going at it to start getting a better stake of what they're looking to try and bring to the table. But now, as we do enter onto this Dio, getting knocked into the back. Separation, nice pickup early, and that's going to be UNLV managing to take quick advantage of this. And you're actually, with how swiftly this happened, Colorado's going to get another stab at it.
Cole Cassidy is going to be the price there, but yep, they do get another stab at this point here as we set up this next fight. Colorado State really, they need to be aggressive. They need to get eliminations. They need to not fall for the Doomfist a second time. That's going to be the biggest thing in this push.
Looking again for another engagement. Nice aggression onto Karma in the back, having to constantly boost up into this high position with those jet boosters. Giving some distance and space. A pickup comes in, gets the counter pick, mind you, onto the Cassidy. Should have heavily favored to take down the Doomfist, but in this case, it shall not. Amplification Matrix comes in as an insurance policy, and now you will have the overtime dwindle. UNLV manages to hold on defensively and prevent Colorado State from gaining a point. We still sit at a scoring of 1-0, but what matters to UNLV is that they've not managed to gain a point moving forward.
Which is exactly what UNLV was hoping for. Maybe that map wasn't as one-sided and didn't necessarily go the way that UNLV hoped, but both of these teams are primed for an amazing third map that'll be back and forth.
We could just take a lovely look at that trophy. We'll deviate away just for a hot moment away from the two that are in front of us and then highlight the trophy and then now come to us, but that's fine. But yes, going into this now, we just have to acknowledge it. But with us looking at the way that they've played, and like you mentioned, it is a lot closer. It has, changed a little bit. The tides have shifted to see if Colorado can come out and really be a contender against Nevada. And with what we've seen, they've managed to do so with more so a little bit of a chaotic nature. That it does have value when the chaos works, but if it is recognized within the moment, that is instantly when you're going to have Nevada take advantage of it and say, all right, friends, we'll be able to just at this point hold on to it, especially when they came out with a Doomfist play at the beginning of that and just hard countering the counter. Let's be honest.
Take fights in unexpected places or in unexpected ways. It's in Doc's keys to the game. The biggest thing that I think is going right for Colorado State now is finish. We were ragging on them a little bit on control because as the Baptiste, they didn't get the peel and the support that they were needing there. But on the Brig, they have been more than a force to be reckoned with, but also a leader and playmaker for their team. And so we're going to hope that they can pull out something similar, that their Zenyatta play is closer to the success of their Brig play versus their Baptiste play as we go into a new map and a new support for finish.
I mean, again, the biggest thing just to really be aware of is what are they going to commit to finish, because now that they no longer have the crowd controlled naturally and it's kit from the Brigitte, the assistance when it comes to the Flay for dislodging individuals that aggress forward, I want to see what kind of resources they're going to give, and if finish is going to continue to be that focal point here for UNLV.
And it looks like, just from a pure comp standpoint from UNLV, it looks like the Ball and the Echo and the long-range Ash are going to be the biggest threats to finish.
We'll see now with that high ground position already pressing forward. Tree trying to take space here, but has to abandon it as Hertz gets very low, fueled and topped back up from Allure. Karma gets a nice pickup here onto the Tracer play. Not expecting that, but giving some serious credit for it as a second falls in suit. That will be UNLV managing to maintain this high ground, get the necessary picks, and just put Colorado back in the spawn.
Karma has been doing an incredible job of peeling for themselves, which essentially as Zenyatta means you eliminate the person, you just straight up delete whoever came after you. And Karma's doing a great job of that, especially with the Mercy Pocket that is able to help them with the damage boost or the healing whenever they need it. That was a pretty nice Ash v Ash. Good job, Purdy.
Tick, tick, boom with a couple of shots to put themselves in a prime position on the high ground, also nearing Bob. This is where the snowball happens. You're stacking up the ultimates, holding underneath this archway, and Colorado is in a dire position.
And now that Bob is online and will probably be used to engage this next fight once the fight actually starts and QWERTY stops getting picks and just poke damage in.
You can even see it was like, where'd you go? I know the recall's coming. Just tell me where you're at, please. Just swiveling back and forth as there's the pickup we wanted to see. Oh, Slagathor is going to regret that engagement.
If Colorado State wants any chance at trying to get them off of this high ground, they need to do it as a team. They need to back off when their members get picked like that and not try to, excuse me, that's actually a great pick for them. And now the fight is in their advantage.
You had Allure looking to see, do I go for this res? Do I not go for this res?
Do
I go for the res? Yeah, we could all, I think, in that moment know when you're going to play Overzealous and it's a real ballsy play, but now you're going to see them fall back to try and sustain with this Valkyrie, and at this point that they've managed to get a lot of fueling onto this backline to sustain, the Flux is going to be there to pair with it. Beef can't manage to get the follow-through on it, and that's another fight engagement here for UNLV.
A really micro thing about Karma Zenyatta is they launch the orbs and then do the Discord, so that the Discord isn't accounting for all of the orb damage, just part of them. And Karma's been getting a lot of eliminations, but it would help them even more if they could get the orb on at the beginning.
Absolutely, and you're going to see a nice eager coming out from Hertz too. Again, that's a real big highlight we've talked about, not only on the Diva play, but also onto the Sigma play, which is more notably a harder thing to read in some respects compared to the Diva defense matrix. As now we do reach this last 60 seconds, Colorado has a nano boost to their name and a soon arriving Deadeye.
And on the side of UNLV, the Bob's going to come out. Sleep is going to immediately come out as well. That Bob is not a problem for enough time to possibly set up a nano.
Yep, nobody touch him. Oh, somebody touched him. Somebody touched the Bob. Never like to see it. It's okay. I'm that person that always hits the Bob, and I won't, you know, we'll say that here, but we'll keep that between us and those that are viewing. There's 25 seconds to go, and this is going to be final fight territory now for Colorado.
Purdy has been one of the only people eliminated on the side of UNLV's fantastic defense, but they've also been uncontested the biggest thorn in Colorado State's side on this defense. This defense is working because QWERTY is having the game of their life on an Ashe.
Yep. Absolutely, just getting so much value at this point now. It's do or die, everything thrown into the mix. A very wildly aggressive Deadeye to try and find some kind of value. Does at least get one, but there is more than enough to fuel with that Valkyrie from Allure up top to keep this front line healthy. The Discord orb being tossed around repeatedly onto the focus fires necessary. Bobbing and weaving the darts. Bionade comes in. Karma's now hoping that they don't feel the Karma. Now you've got round one completed with only 46.02 meters gained here for Colorado State, and they have quite a task ahead of them.
You got to think that this is looking a little bit more towards UNLV here, just because the cart didn't even round that first corner because Colorado State couldn't get them off the gas station, just because, first of all, it's a spam comp, so it's designed to be able to just sit on the gas station and do that indefinitely, but also because QWERTY, like I said before, was having the game of their life hard-pocketed on that Ashe. There was hardly a fight that Colorado State was able to get all 6 members into, just because they were getting picked so often and consistently.
And with that side swap, I'm really hoping that we don't see picks coming through just as successfully for UNLV. We need to see that really tight, coordinated play from Colorado to not find themselves losing out, because once they have one of these members fall, they have been more often than not and statistically not able to recover, as we have seen like UNLV. And I've got a lot of focal vision or focus onto Slagather and what type of value we can see come out from this Ashe play, and hopefully it's going to be on the same level that we had from the return side from QWERTY.
Especially with the Mercy pocket, and Dio will have a big task ahead of them deciding who to pocket between the Ashe and the Echo, and that really comes down to which individual DPS player is getting more value on that hero.
You can see this Reaper adaptation coming in, looking for more of a close range engagement, potentially looking to try and use this aggressive play in the back. Nobody does see it just yet. Looks for a pick onto the Mercy. Dio is aware of it though. You have to see QWERTY drop down underneath, attempting to get some decent shots because you don't have tree up top. Kinetic Grasp has been used, but it didn't get the armor necessary. There's not enough of it. The beam comes through by the Symmetra, completely just disintegrating that tank line. And now Dio up top with the Battle Mercy pistol attempting to try and equalize the numbers at this point. There's do or die for them as it's just under 5 meters. They're going to have to commit to this. They have to abandon ship on the high ground and try and see if they can take this aggression down below, because if they don't, the res from Dio can give some agency to hold it, but there's no one anywhere near the cart, and that's going to be UNLV coming out with a dominant performance again here, but on the map of Route 66.
It really feels like Colorado State did not communicate that that flank was coming out and that there was a Reaper and a Moira, because their Sigma dropped to the cart, which is understandable. You have to contest the point, but then all the squishies in the back just kind of let the Reaper and the Moira exist. And especially a Moira, once the Reaper left and started antagonizing the Sigma, that Moira was easy picking for the 3 members that were up there. So I kind of think that the issue there was target focus more than anything.
Well, and to build on just the target focus aspect of it, it was also just utilizing the Symmetra. We talk about it in constant situations where the longer the fight goes on, the more value the Symmetra is going to bring. So when at this point, you know they're going to have to commit to the point. They're on the low ground position. You've got shotgun shells hitting you from behind, that beam coming from up front, completely bypassing anything that you can do defensively to mitigate it. And then also the kinetic grasp being used just too prematurely there, that it didn't give the extra shielding necessary that could be mitigating the damage. It just all started to fall from there. And once the domino fell, it was just a chain reaction.
There were 2 separate engages, and both had points that were kind of like misplays that ultimately, when you have just a single fight like that that determines the outcome of the map, those micro plays matter. And so UNLV is going to go ahead and take that and set up what looks like another spam comp on defense here, at least with the DPS and support lineup.
Yep, and hyper focus here for Cordy on this Ashe that we've seen play with great success, acknowledging this position that's being used with the Symmetra to try and take a flanking round the back stairway approach. Karma gets the pick up onto Tree. The Discord Orb is true. A couple of great shots as well. Picks up the Tracer play. Slagather is literally in that crosshair constantly from Cordy.
Cordy just keeps on going with the nice clean headshots there.
Just picking him up. I mean, you got the damage boost. Allura's just giving them the time of their life, and now they take another attempt. 60 seconds already off the clock. At least the teleporter's there, so they can maybe try this again. But at this point, you've already got UNLV understanding what they're looking to do.
It's going to be hard to break this defense, especially if Colorado State wants to do this, they need to quit getting picked in rotation. The Ashe is still their biggest enemy, and so far they haven't come up with a counter for it.
And you can see now a little bit more of a patient, methodical play coming out from Nevada, and it's, I mean, not something that I dislike, but with how much time they're committing into this, it's going to prevent them from getting multiple engagements, so this really has to be worthwhile. You have this flanking position, sticky bombs come through, nice deep life, but that focusing beam is going to just basically delete them because they're constantly getting hit by these sticky bombs in these narrow corridors where the focusing beam can do that extra damage.
That looked like it hurt. The problem with these long rotations that are going on right now is 2 main things. First of all, the biggest counter to an Ashe is to get on top of her. She's standing in that middle ground. You could do that quite easily without doing a long rotation. Second, rotations are when people are getting picked. So why would you prolong that instead of just rushing right at them?
I mean, the other thing too is just looking at this consistent play, it's just free farm for this Echo, and they haven't even needed to commit any ultimates. I would have really liked to see potentially a compositional swap by Colorado State, but now they're in this minute and 30 seconds. They have to stick with this. The ultimate economy for the sound barrier, for the route, they're going to commit the rally into this. They're going for it when you've got the separation from Tree up top that does get the sound barrier. So Slagather is eliminated, and Hertz is just laying waste with the assistance of this Discord Orb. That was both support ultimate committed with now just over 60 seconds to go.
Those were wasted support ultimates because the team was too split for either one of them to be of any value, and Colorado State was already down when those support ultimates came out. You don't want to, with 1:30 seconds, commit your ultimates to an already lost fight. The best play for Colorado State here is to wall off the Ashe and get right onto her and get her eliminated.
I mean, they're now trying to take a different positioning here to see if they can get the better end of it, but once again, Slagather is picked up by Qwerty. Dominant awareness and eliminating this Tracer play. They have at least attempts to get back into this as long as they can maintain. They're actually going to look for a potentially crossover, but it's instantly shut down. Sesvi is killing it on this Echo, and this just gives me flashback moments of Chinese contenders when I casted it last season. When there is an Echo player on this map that knows how to utilize these corners, it is just unrelenting.
And there are definitely a lot of different angles that you can peek to prevent yourself from being sniped. That's the duality of Temple of Anubis. Both snipers and flankers are incredibly effective.
Seconds now dwindling. You have Veep entering in with the Flux. Photon Barrier committed as well, but Tree has already been eliminated. Karma rotating back to give the assistance with the Transcendence, also holding on to the Valkyrie if necessary. Pops it instantly after. UNLV is in dominant fashion, coordinating their way to victory for a full hold on this defensive position, not allowing a single tick. It's just this final few picks with a Discord or for Focus Fire. They've swapped to the D, but attempt a contention, but the Flux will lift high into the sky to leave Baby Diva all alone as that overtime dwindles. The goal is set, and Colorado once again, it feels a deja vu moment where they have a massive task ahead of them.
They have to be perfect on the defense, and if anybody gets picked, it's likely the first point will go over to UNLV and just the match as a whole. Colorado State was put into this position because they did too much of the same thing. They took that Symmetra teleporter until 1:30 seconds was left on the clock, and they just kept doing it, even though it kept not working for them. Their rotations were long, and they weren't paying off. And so this is kind of like where the time in Overwatch really comes to bite you. You need to make every second count. And if your first long rotation doesn't work, you probably don't want to do a second one, and you definitely for sure don't want to do a third one.
Yeah, the third one is where you start really questioning it. I mean, if there's something when potentially you have an ultimate economy that you want to work within, you have it, then there's potential viability. But in this case, we saw that the ultimates weren't there. On the third attempt, they overcommit into that, where they just find themselves at the disadvantage. I really would have liked them to actually change that positioning and going towards the right versus that back left position, because maybe with those two support ultimates, they would have been actually able to yield a lot more value.
And the Colorado State ultimate usage was overall very disappointing that last push as well, because they didn't use their Symmetra ultimate and their Ball ultimate until final fight, when Simwell definitely would have helped them approach the Ashe, and the support ultimates were when they were split and down.
Nice crowd control early here coming out onto Sackler, but does escape. It would have been critical for them to get that early advantage and start leading into the ultimate economy. As you do have this fallback, still continuing to maintain this. I would love to see some interaction with Tree and Beef to try and get a halt, well, to a knock-up pile drive hook combination to see if they can get something. But
ooh,
oh no,
big.
You've got Qwerty with this Doomfist in the back, opening it up, and now it's caused just disarray in the flanking position. Everyone's going to be aggressed on. Colorado State has now been brought to rubble. They will find themselves left in the ash of Temple of Anubis. That sand will bury them for time as a spin to win comes through in the center. The single tick is all that's needed, and it has finally been obtained.
And some members of Colorado State weren't even able to get to the point. That's how dominating UNLV's performance was on this Temple of Anubis map.
I mean, stellar job overall from what they've managed to at least take learning from their match earlier against Boise State. Again, Boise still playing super, super on point. There has still been some evolution, even in these short few minutes that we've seen over the course of this broadcast, that really helped them out to go into Colorado State. And again, there's just some of those pitfalls that I had mentioned, seeing it recently from their show match that they did in Colorado just in the previous month, still lingering, still needing to be focused on. But overall, at least they were able to put up some competitive nature, more so on a map I think that was more comfortable for them, like Eichenwald, but these other ones just, it was vastly more dominant from Nevada.
You have to assume that Eichenwald is one of their main maps because that's when they had the best performance on. That's when they did tricky things. They know it seems like they know that map and the strategies therein like the back of their hands, and it definitely worked for them. And I think if Colorado State got more of the maps that they were looking for and prepared to play, things might have ended a little bit differently for them because it came to a draw. They forced UNLV in the position of a draw. So this definitely wasn't as one-sided as the 2 3-0s would have you believe.
Yeah, so first time we've seen a draw. Great showing by both teams, especially with Colorado State, as you mentioned, not really having their map picks, but still giving UNLV a hard fight a lot of the times. But as you mentioned, QWERTY on that Doomfist was a huge player. So with that mentioned, who do you pick as the player of the game for his matchup?
Ooh, I mean that's a toughie. I mean, QWERTY I would say is a great focus, but even when it comes to just that echo play towards the end of it, that was pretty stellar. Like I mean, I would have to almost say just because those critical moments that were coming out was really, really substantial for them to get that by SSV.
And on the support side of things, I would like to say probably Karma on the Zenyatta, just because we weren't on their perspective a lot, so you didn't get to see them do this. But most of the time when Karma went under pressure, like somebody came after them, they were able to win the 1v1, which is an impressive thing to do as Zenyatta, because the only thing you can do is hit your shots. And Karma definitely did that consistently throughout all of the maps.
Well, it looks like it is going to be QWERTY on that DPS role. As you mentioned, that echo play was absolutely defining for her QWERTY, and also later on that Doomfist. Here we're highlighting that Eichenwald on that Tracer. So QWERTY very well deserved for the player of the game, which is brought to us by the Idaho Central Credit Union, who believes a great player makes a team more successful. Just like Idaho Central's helping members achieve financial success, QWERTY is going to be the Idaho Central Credit Union player of the game.
And this play with the Reaver flank was huge.
You can't discredit QWERTY. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't discredit QWERTY because, again, it was more so like I just had a moment of like there was a huge echo play, but overall I would definitely agree that it's definitely some serious value that was brought out, especially with this Ashe play that we had as well. Constant, successful takedowns on multiple occasions, just really heads-up play overall.
QWERTY could have a whole highlight reel on Ashe, just on Temple of Anubis and on Route 66, because it really felt like Route 66, no matter what Colorado State tried to do, they were down members because of QWERTY and Allure.
So for closing out, before we leave you with the top 5 plays, your closing thoughts.
I mean, I'll lead with I'm just excited to see this Mountain West esports because, I mean, I see a lot of collegiate across the country, and being able to just be here involved in this and be able to see this type of level of gameplay and what they're looking to continue bringing forward. Boise State rocking it right now to see how they're going to continue not only in this region but competitively across the nation. It's something to really, really look forward to, and I'm just grateful to even be here to have that chance of being able to highlight those individuals and be alongside both of you.
And D'Angelo, yours?
Well, we were definitely honored to have you as well. It's been an amazing learning experience just working with you here. But I gotta say, UNLV, I think, was demonstrated being a learning team, because against Boise State, they got better with every single map that passed. And then against Colorado, they were more aggressive. They used ultimates more effectively. And I think Boise State might have a harder time the next time they try to face off.
Yeah, so hopefully a brighter future for UNLV as they continue to learn and adjust to these 3 new players. But we are going to go ahead and end it here. But make sure to stick around for the last few minutes, because we are going to leave you with the top 5 plays of the night, brought to you by the Idaho Army National Guard, which invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time with more than 10 job offerings, a $20,000 sign-on bonus. The Idaho Army National Guard is the best team to join out there, and make sure to reach out to them at iGuard Gaming. Have a good night.
Well, you really can't fuel anybody unless they're close to you to maintain some area of effect healing. Nice couple of boops, though, and getting rid of the support line. If they can just eliminate this Tracer play, or correction, the D.Va play on this bottom position, they should be able to switch this back, but UNLV is actually being able to persevere, especially because they've got that focusing beam. Doesn't see it just yet. Looks for a pick onto the Mercy. Dio is aware of it, though. have to see Cordy drop down underneath, attempting to get some decent shots because you don't have Tree up top. Kinetic Grasp has been used, but it didn't get the armor necessary. There's not enough of it. The beam comes through by the Symmetra, completely just disintegrating that tank line. Mortality Field has been faded, instantly proccing that Valkyrie. Now, potentially going to look for the res, not yet committed into it because there's still necessary healing that has to come through for the recovery, and now dives in to get that pickup, bringing all 6 back online, and that was actually beautifully played to make sure that they could do so. But as I say that, I mean, not something that I dislike, but with how much time they're committing into this, it's going to prevent them from getting multiple engagements, so this really has to be worthwhile. You have this flanking position, sticky bombs come through, nice deep leg, but that focusing beam is going to just basically delete them because they're constantly getting hit by these sticky bombs in these narrow corridors being used with the Symmetra to try and take a flanking round the back stairway approach. Karma gets the pickup onto Tree. The Discord Orb is true. A couple of great shots as well. Picks up the Tracer play. Slagather is literally in that crosshair constantly from 40.